we are going to discuss the important foundations for health. And you might be wondering, what does that all mean? First of all, yesterday we talked about this whole idea. Homeostasis is a flat line. And if we veer from this flat line, if we have too much of a bad thing, or even a good thing can be too much, but too much of something that doesn't belong and not enough of something that does belong, then we are going to be all thrown off. And yesterday I drew a swirly line. So watch yesterday's presentation if you missed it. It is on my Instagram. And today, what I want to just reiterate is the toxins and infections are what throw us off of homeostasis, the too much of that, and then deficiencies. If we don't have enough of the nutrients we need to function, we're not gonna be very healthy, and we'll also set ourselves up for more toxins and infections. The other side of it is we're gonna have more toxins and infections if we have deficiencies. So it goes hand in hand. I think a lot of the problem nowadays is the toxins and infections. So we really need to be highlighting that if people are going to get well. I think a lot of deficiencies will start to work themselves out as long as we're really dealing with this. And this is a huge, huge problem. There's 85,000 chemicals in the environment and growing every day. So we need to take care of this if our body's going to function right. God did not put us on earth with all these chemicals. These are man-made products, and yes, they do help with different things that we need sometimes here and there, but at the same time, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice for our health and polluting the earth in the way we're doing. So now we have our foundations here. The foundation I want to start with, before I go through each one of those, there's a verse in the Bible that was highlighted to me today that I wanted to read to you, actually a couple verses. So, anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise, like a person who builds a house on solid rock. Though the rain comes in torrents and the floodwaters rise and the wind beat against that house, it won't collapse because it is built on bedrock. But anyone who hears my teaching and does not obey, it is foolish, like a person who builds a house on sand. When the rain and floods come and the winds beat against that house, it will collapse with a mighty crash. So I want to say this verse was highlighted because we're talking about foundations. When you build a house, if you don't have a foundation that is strong, your house is going to be wobbly. It's not going to last. It might collapse while you're in it. Now, when we're talking about detox and dealing with all of this, toxins, infections, deficiencies, etc., you are going to be able to deal with this whole situation a whole lot stronger, providing you have a good foundation. So we want to build detoxification. So I would say this is more of this idea up here. We want to build that on top of the foundation so that when we start to move out pathogens and things like that, we can keep them out. We don't want them to come back because remember, if you have deficiencies, you're more likely to have infection. And parasites, that's an infection if it's overgrown. So we don't want to keep those suckers in our body. Now, just to remind you, I would say the foundation, this part of it, is going to take us closer to our homeostasis here. So we got that. So green with green. We're going to get closer. We are not going to get all the way back to homeostasis if we do not do this part, detoxification. And I'm just kind of grouping all of this in detoxification, but detoxification is mostly dealing with the toxin. You have, we eliminate parasites or infections in general, and dealing with deficiencies, but I'm kind of grouping that all in this detoxification. That's only going to be dealt with specific supplementation, herbs, natural remedies, etc. So let's talk about this because a big chunk of this is going to be the foundation. The first thing that we talk about is God's presence. It's huge, you guys. Think about it like this. God created everything. If you don't believe in God, I don't know what to tell you. I'll pray for you. But if God created everything, And actually, I want to ask first, if you don't believe in God, why don't you believe in God? To me, it just makes sense. Who created all this? I mean, there has to be a creator of the creation. But anyways, no condemnation. But for those that you believe in God, He is our creator. He divinely put all the hairs on our head and every single cell in our body and mitochondria we talked about yesterday. So He's like our instruction manual, basically, for ourselves. My husband used to joke around that I just need an instruction manual for myself. And that's it. The more that we understand the Lord and can hear His heart, we can make decisions that are wise. Wouldn't it be a smart idea to understand the creator that created this creation? And the more that you intimately understand who He is and can have a personal relationship, we can navigate our health journey better. I have done a lot of research myself in this field and come across a ton of wisdom and mentors and amazing things in this field. Do I have all the answers? No. But who does? And who will direct your path to the right answer? So my goal in this whole program, Cerebral Detox, really, we're detoxing our body and our brain. I want your brain to function very well and have mental wellness and happiness and joy and all that kind of stuff. As we're doing that, we actually can hear God clearer. There's a bunch of stuff that goes on up here sometimes. This whole thing is just in balance. We get this back in balance and we're actually in the heartbeat of God. So anyways, God's presence is huge. So we're going to talk about that in my program, Cerebral Detox. One of the presentations I go through in that is God's presence. The other thing we need to know is we need to have purpose. Without Him, how do we know our purpose? So now oxygen. Oxygen is the second thing that I want to highlight here. So we went through God's presence, oxygen. The body is 65% oxygen. It is the most abundant nutrient in the body, and 20 to 25% of that goes to our brain. That's a lot of one nutrient that our body uses, and the most abundant resource that our brain needs as well. So some people will call oxygen the giver of life. So it's powerful. I mean, God breathed creation into life. So it's just interesting how He did that. And now when we breathe, we have life as well. Hypoxia is a condition wherein you have low oxygen in your body. And that is related to different things like the growth of infections, like viruses, all kinds of pathogens, like to live in an anaerobic environment. So that's a low oxygen environment. Cancer. I mean, think about it. Have you ever heard of any person that has cancer and they're like, I need a hyperbaric chamber? If you don't know what a hyperbaric chamber is, oxygen, it's just full of oxygen. So it raises your oxygen level. Now I use other techniques in my practice here, but it's huge. I mean, when you're talking about things like cancer and viruses. And the other thing is, if you have hypoxia or low blood oxygen, you can be emotionally unstable. So have you ever gone exercising and you just feel amazing after you do some aerobics and your emotions are just through the roof? You got endorphins pumping. There's a reason. You need that oxygen. So that's oxygen for you. We dive deeper in that in the program as well too. And as we go through the program, we really we break it down and we try to figure out where it is, where is the disconnect in your life here, and coach you along the way. So that's oxygen. Now water. All right, I told you that oxygen makes up 65%. Water, or I should say hydrogen. So water is H2O. Hydrogen is a big chunk of water, right? It makes up 11.5% of your body. So with a combination of oxygen, you got 76.5% of your body is made of hydrogen and oxygen, aka water. So it's a lot of water. Our body's a lot of water. I mean, you could dehydrate us and we'd probably shrivel up into a little raisin if we got rid of all the water in our body. Now, what happens if you're dehydrated? Have you ever been dehydrated and you just don't feel good? You can't think straight, you got dry mouth, and you just feel off. I mean, sometimes people don't even realize they're dehydrated. Poor brain activity. Now, cerebral detox is all about working on the brain too. That's a big, big goal that I have for people, is to get their brains functioning right. Can you imagine if people's brains were functioning right, how much more productive we'd be in society, how much more loving we'd be and treating our neighbors with respect? And I mean, we would just have a better society in general. So this is why I feel like this is time. It's time for people to cerebral detox. So brain activity, things like parasites can rob our brain activity. They can steal our joy. There's something called neuroparasitology. It's a scientific term for how parasites can actually hijack your brain and mind. It's parasite mind control. So we don't want an overgrowth of those suckers, especially in our brain. And dehydration can also lead to inflammation and acidity. Pain and disease are linked to inflammation and acidity, and it also messes up your metabolism. So we don't want to be dehydrated. The question is, and we're going to discuss this as time goes on, is how do we get the best quality water? What does it mean? I know it sounds simple, but it can be so profound and an aha moment. The next thing we have is the sun. I live in a place now where half the year it's gloomy. So what do? I go in my sauna every day. There's the sauna, the infrared actually is like what the rays come from in the sun. We got to figure it out one way or another. Now, sun, I'm going to read this little excerpt from Dr. Joseph Mercola in his article, Fascinating Facts You Never Knew About the Brain. Sun will help you maintain optimal D levels, vitamin D. What does vitamin D help? The virus. Scientists are now beginning to realize vitamin D is involved in maintaining the health of your brain, as they've recently discovered vitamin D receptors in the brain, spinal cord, and central nervous system. There's even evidence indicating vitamin D improves your brain's detoxification process. So if we don't have enough vitamin D, we are not going to be detoxing properly. And it also helps with the central nervous system, our brain, our spinal cord. Our body's just going to be a mess if we don't have vitamin D. For children and pregnant women, getting enough vitamin D is especially crucial as it plays a major role in protecting infants' brains from autism. Autism is on the rise, you guys, and you have to sit back and question why. Alzheimer's is too. Suicide is too. All these problems that relate back to the state of our chemical balance and even all of this stuff, right? God's presence. And the more that we can make sure that the foundation is set and we're dealing with this imbalance here, people get set free from these thoughts that torment them, and then also from their brain not working properly.
Are you ready to reclaim your health and revitalize your life? Well, I've got something that's going to change the way you feel forever. Imagine waking up each day with boundless energy, mental clarity, and emotional balance. It's not a dream, it's within your reach. Introducing the free Detox Checklist, your ultimate guide to a toxin-free lifestyle. This exclusive 11-point detoxification checklist is your key to a fresh start, and exactly what I wish I had when I first started my detox journey. It will help you effortlessly identify the biggest source of toxins in your life. You'll learn how to purify the air you breathe, uncover the ultimate solution for cleaner, pure water, and start drinking confidently. Say goodbye to uncertainty when sourcing real wholesome food and choosing the most effective supplements. Embrace holistic beauty products for a radiant, toxin-free glow that will turn heads. Explore natural oral care solutions for a sparkling smile and revolutionize your cleaning routine with natural supplies. Safeguard yourself from harmful EMFs and elevate your well-being through mindful choices for bedding and clothing. Dive into the art of cleansing your body, mind, and emotions, unlocking a whole new you. Imagine waking up every day to boundless energy, mental clarity, and emotional balance every single day. It's all within your reach with the secrets enclosed in this comprehensive detox checklist. Ready to start your journey toward a toxin-free life? Click the link below and grab your free detox checklist now. Don't miss out on the opportunity to reclaim your health.
The next thing we have is sleep. Sleep is needed for brain cells to communicate effectively. So your brain's not going to work very well if you don't sleep. Have you ever felt like that? Or you got a lack of sleep and the next day you're just dragging the whole day? You might as well get your sleep and then actually be able to function right, and you'll function at a higher level. Everybody needs a different amount of sleep. For me, I need a pretty decent amount of sleep, and I had to come to terms with that at some point because I wasn't feeling too well every time I tried to wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. Sometimes even 6 a.m. is too early too. So I go to bed early, but at the same time, my body just needs more recovery than other people. And you'll find that you'll just feel better if you honor that for yourself. Now, a lot of recovery and detox is done during sleep. We have the system in our brain called the lymphatic system. So it's the lymphatic system in our brain. That is where a lot of infections are fought. So if you do not sleep, you're not going to be detoxing properly, just like if you don't have enough vitamin D. And your brain obviously is not going to function right. You're not going to get all the infections out of your body and your brain because the lymphatic system it detoxes a lot during your sleep. So we'll talk about what are issues of why people can't sleep too, because I know some of you are probably getting to bed on time. So pat yourself on the back for that. But you might be having a challenge with actually sleeping. And I would say that is one of the top two probably things that I dealt with when I was having practice in Las Vegas the most was insomnia. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people can't sleep. And there are reasons for that. We're going to dive into that at some point here. Now, I just want to leave you with some hope here because you don't have to be an insomniac for the rest of your life. Now, the next thing we have is nutrition. You could take all the healthy supplements and wonderful things in the world, but if your diet is a mess, I mean, it's still going to help. I mean, that's where nutritional supplementation can come in. But again, you're not building your house on solid rock. The wind's going to come over and, maybe you have a stressor in your life at some important time and it will just tip you over. And with nutrition, think about it. We're like a car. If you don't have healthy food in your car, it's not going to operate very well. So we dial into that. Now, the question is, what do I eat? I mean, there's a lot of people are very well intended. They want to eat, they want to exercise and do well for themselves, but then they're so confused because the media is just all over the place with what is healthy. I don't blame you guys for being confused. So we're going to break that down in the program. I will also teach you how to grow microgreens. So we need nutrient-dense foods. I have 3 things for nutrition. 1, eat real food. 2, eat super nutrient-dense foods. 3, get all the chemicals out of your food. Now, each person, we're bio-individual, right? I would mention how God created us all, and we need to figure out how to navigate ourselves. So yes, there are different things that different people are going to need more or less of depending on where you're at, but we'll talk about that and help you figure out what's going to be best for you. And then we got exercise. I used to be a certified personal trainer in the Surgical Detox program. I actually have videos for you on how to properly exercise. If we don't have exercise, we're not going to get enough oxygen. These two obviously are very related. Now there's aerobic exercise. So that's cardio, the classic, like let's get on a bike, let's run. And then there's strength training, that's anaerobic. So you're not producing a bunch of oxygen while you're doing that. You need both. And you also need to stretch. So there's different components of exercise, and we can do it all. Then you're going to be able to set yourself up for success and then also be able to protect your bone density, your brain function. We're going to talk about how exercise affects your brain function too. Of course, because this is Cerebral Detox. And the next thing that we're going to talk about here is relationships. Some of you guys need to get out of that bad relationship. And if that's you, raise your hand, let me know, and you can keep it to yourself. I mean, it's between you and God. But if you want to talk about that, and if you want me to pray about that, actually, because we're going to have a little Q&A and prayer after this. So I feel for you. I've had bad relationships in my life, and this could be with, it could be your friend, it could be your spouse, it could be your teacher, it could be a mentor. I mean, it could be all kinds of different people. I've had a lot of people I've had to be like, oh, we're done. I've had to pray some people away too. So we're going to talk about the importance of the right relationships. We are made to be in community. And if we are not in community, there's a part of us that you'll notice if you're in the right community, you feel uplifted. If you're in the wrong community or in a lack of community, there's a time where you're just going to feel like something's missing, whether you realize it or not. I actually have always thought I was kind of introverted in some ways, as much as I exude myself as an extrovert. I like to be in my little hole and And honestly, I probably wouldn't even be on social media if it weren't for doing business and sharing all this information with you guys. But once I got out of my hole and started doing it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. So anyways, I naturally would just retreat and find myself feeling in a rut and not realizing what I needed was this. I needed good friends. I needed people that would pray for me and listen to me. And it's amazing how much we just have things lifted when we have the right people in our life that can point us back to God and help us have right perspective. And then if you're in your calling, you got to have mentors. So there's all kinds of stuff that have to do with relationships. The other side of it is, who are you serving? Because when you're serving the right community that you are called to, you're going to have a peace and joy that is completely something that you can only get from God. And if you're in the right lane in your life, if you're not, then people can do all of this kind of stuff, detoxing, dealing with deficiencies, eating right, and something is still missing. Stress and EMF management. As I've learned, we go up and we go down. And if you're in the valley, you can expect the peak. If you're in a peak, you can expect the valley. And it just is what it is. What are you going to do when you're stressed? What are you going to do if something bad happens, right? Now, there's different ways to deal with that. And some of this, I'm going to tie in structural imbalances actually in this too, because some stress actually, it could be a chemical stressor. It could be a life stressor. It could be a structural stressor. So if our body is imbalanced, there's this whole, I don't even know if I want to call it a workout, a program, I guess you could say, called Egoscu. And I know a couple practitioners that do that. And they actually help you to get your body back in line. When I was a personal trainer, we would think about that too when you would exercise people a certain way. Because if they have forward shoulders, or if they're, when we're sitting, actually, we can be hunched over a little bit and then create this arch in your back. And this can create imbalances in our body and our chemical makeup as well too, if we don't have these things set. So there's chiropractors, there's even holistic dentists. I used to work for a dentist. And if your teeth are not right, then you can have issues that can be systemic because you have a root canal. So we have to talk about that stuff. And then this stuff can cause external stress as well. It messes up the chemical balance. It can cause more infections in your body. We can have blockages because we're out of balance in our body. And then EMFs. I've been on this kick. I would love to show you. I've got a bunch of different organites and different types of stones to put in my house, because we are living in an age where EMFs are a huge problem, and it's only getting worse. Just like the chemical problem, now we have this huge problem we can't even see. We wake up and we're in an EMF smog. So we have to have things that can help to get rid of the EMF poisoning that we are dealing with. Just so you know, the reason why EMFs are not good is because they can affect your body's nervous system, is one. Now, the nervous system is intertwined in our stress response, and they can damage our cells. So we talked about the mitochondria, which are inside the cells. And if one of the smallest pieces of our body are damaged, it's like that whole foundational thing. If you don't have a foundation, your house is not going to stand, right? So if we're going to be healthy, we have to be healthiest at the smallest particles in our body, the cells, the mitochondria, etc. Cancer and unusual growths can maybe one of the symptoms of the high EMF exposure. Why do we have brain tumors so much nowadays? I mean, people are putting their phones right up to their ears. Just to reiterate, the foundations of health. We have to first remember homeostasis is where health is. If we have too much infections and toxins, or if we have deficiencies, we get all thrown off, and then that's when disease and illness start. We have to be able to deal with all this. Now, the first thing is dealing with the foundation. The foundation, this green line, is these green topics here. It's going to take us closer to homeostasis, where our body is healthiest and happiest. And we have God's presence, oxygen, water, sleep, sun, nutrition, exercise, relationship, stress, and EMF management. The last thing I have here is financial peace. When we are stressed out constantly about our money, it is a recipe for disaster in our health as well. I don't want people to be stuck. If they can have healthier brain function and feel better and have more energy, etc., they're probably going to have more financial peace too. They'll probably be able to figure that out easier than the next person that is at home and they have brain fog and they can't deal with the relationships well because they have anxiety and depression and they're not motivated, etc. So there's root causes to all that, and this is why we are doing this.